Namaste everyone, welcome to our Endgame series. This is the Endgame-13. This is the last Endgame in our Knight versus Pawn Endgame sequence. So far, we have analyzed Knight versus Pawn Endgames where the pawn was on the central four files, and then we analyzed the Knight spawn and then Rook spawn on the 6th rank. Today, we will see what the Knight can do when the pawn is already advanced on the 7th rank. We can already see that when this pawn is advanced on the 7th rank and is to queen on the next move, the knight has to cover the h1 square, and for that it has to come to either f2 or g3 square. And if the black king is anywhere near these two squares, then there is not much that the knight can do. So which is why we will be analyzing this position where the king is a little bit far from the pawn. So after knight g3, h2, because if the pawn is not advanced, then this becomes the knight versus sixth pawn end game, which we have already seen. The knight will be able to draw as it is able to control the h1 square. So the pawn has to advance, and then the white king, let's say, moves to king b7, and this is the position of our interest. Here we can see that the knight is creating a blockade for the black king and preventing it from advancing towards the knight and protecting the pawn. This e2 and e4 squares are controlled by the knight directly, and if the king goes to e3 square, then knight f1 check will win the pawn. Similarly, if king d2, then again knight f2 check will win the pawn. So we can see that this knight has created this blockade of L shape where the king will not be able to advance towards the knight and kick it away from the g3 position. So the king has to go around the this blockade, or via the other side of the blockade. Sorry. So let's say king d4, after king b7, king d4, king c6, king e5, king c5, king f4, knight h1, king f3, king d4, king g2, king e3, and if king takes h1, then king f2. And now this is a drawn position because the king will not be able to move away from in front of the pawn, and this will be a draw by stalemate. So this is how the knight will be able to prevent the king from directly approaching it and kicking it away from the g3 and f2 square. And this buys enough time for the king to come in and rescue the game.